an announcement that I suppose, if you're keeping a very, very close eye on Barcelona, may have surprised a few, but really surprised me. Gerard Pique, who's had an absolutely stellar career, of course, and played in not one but at least two great Barcelona teams and at least one great Spanish team, announces in the middle of the week, in the middle of the season, that he's packing it in. What's behind? And of course, then he had a big tearful farewell against Almeria at the new camp. What's behind this, Andy?
Well, we knew he was going to retire at some point. I think the retirement is not the surprise; it's the exact timing, which is the surprise. Because, as you say, Danny, very abrupt. He has been on the wane for a little while now. I mean, if we go back to the infamous 8-2 in the Champions League in Lisbon against Bayern Munich, he came out and said straight away after that, "Look, if I'm the problem, I'll go." Now, shortly after that, he was given a 4-year contract, of course, which was a surprising decision initially. I mean, really, it was a way of giving him a pay cut because he got less wages over a longer period of time. And that is something that Barcelona have done more than once in the last couple of years, of course, in between all their various economic levers and what have you. Now, reason one why Piqué might have gone now, I think that the financial thing is part of it. They need to buy defenders. They needed to buy defenders in the summer. We talked about it. They kind of mixed and matched while they treated themselves to some very nice forwards. They had a bit of a supermarket sweep of whatever defenders were available, really. And I mean that with no disrespect to Hector Bellerin and Marcos Alonso, etc., etc.
They did spend a bit of money on Jude, couldn't they?
Yeah, they did, but they probably needed 4 top quality defenders, not just one, not just one and a few bits out someone else's garage. But what happened, I guess, after that is that they realised that there are a few defenders who might be available come winter, and with getting Piqué off the wage bill, it is still a substantial wage. The initial wage that he signed on would count for accounting purposes. That comes off the bill, so it doesn't take into account deferrals or whatever. That will open up something in the wage bill for them to spend, which they really need. Of course, they are deprived as of this week of the Champions League money, so they need to find some latitude elsewhere on the wage bill. The second thing I think is also connected to the Champions League. Like we said, we know Piqué is not what he was, and no more did we see that. More than, I guess, in the second game against Inter, where they didn't win. It was a 3-3 draw at Camp Nou. He had an awful game, and at that point, it looked like it was leaving him. I don't think we can put it any more simply than that. The third thing is kind of to do with the financial bit of Barcelona and where they are at the moment. In that, Joan Laporta is, he's definitely hitting a block. In terms of where he wants to be at the moment. Now, that's not to say that he's going to depart as president imminently or anything like that, but he is in a bit of a tricky spot in that his plan is not going with that Champions League exit exactly as he wanted it to. And so that means that I think he needs to line up a Laporta sympathetic possible successor. Now, we all know, and we've all known for some time, that Gerard Piqué is going to become president of Barcelona someday. He's someone who's got a lot of outside football interests as well. He's a businessman already. He is very much Catalan Jay-Z. So I think it's clear that he's going to be ready for it at some point in the future, and whether is when Laporta hits the buffers, I think will be very, very interesting to see.
And the last thing on Piqué, first of all, we should say, what a great career he's had.
Yes.
And also, I'm rather sad now because that Barcelona team, which in the end, and the Spanish side, the old tiki-taka might have got boring in the end, but they did transform football, and the only survivor now is Busquets, because time moves on for everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Busquets will probably move on at the end of the season. Xavi
another massive contract, of course.
Xavi has opened the door to that. They're not going to want to pay him forever. And also, the last time he was asked to take a pay cut, his agent said, "Come on, enough is enough. We've done enough for the club, and really there has been so much pressure on players like Pique and Busquets for the love of the club to fund their mistakes, really, which is totally unsustainable, by the way, and is no kind of reward for everything they've given to the club over those years. It's not their fault that it's been run horrendously irresponsibly over recent years. With Pique as well, I do feel we have to have a word about him as a player, because we heard a discussion earlier this week on talkSPORT on Sports Bar, where Jermaine Pennant and Jamie O'Hara were saying he was the worst player in that Barcelona team. I don't think anyone really believes that who watch Barcelona.
Even if that was true,
basis,
that wouldn't make you a bad footballer, would it?
No, that's true. But I think Pique deserves to be up there amongst the very best defenders of his generation. And you look at his contributions, not just the trophies, because the trophies do count, of course. The individual the team trophies are always more important than the individual ones. But you look at his hand in probably 3 great Barcelona sides, 2 under Guardiola and 1 under Luis Enrique. And then you look at what he did with Spain as well, part of a European Championship winning side and a World Cup winning side.
Unbelievable.
And then on top of that, for me, what sums it up is his nickname at the club since he was back there a couple of years, Pekenbauer, because of that combination of being a tough defender who was always completely composed on the ball. It's funny how he ruled the defence with an iron fist, but at the same time looked as if he was playing in carpet slippers. An incredible defender.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even remember the circumstances that he was let go at Manchester United. Was there anything Sir Alex Ferguson could have done to have kept him?
Well, not played him at right back, I think would have been a big plus. They're always trying to squeeze him into the team in a really sort of difficult way. I think it was the fact that because he'd not been able to show himself in his prime position. Of course, he had that terrible game at Bolton, which was one of those things that undercut him in that final season. But if he'd have been able to play centre-back consistently, I think he'd have been great for Manchester United. But it came to the point where he'd not completely proven himself. He was still rated at United, but he wanted to go back to Barcelona, and Guardiola really wanted him. I think that's really interesting, how Guardiola identified him straight away as someone who would help build that dynasty.
This is Trans-Europe Express. Sunday nights from 9 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.